And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, your old pal Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Hell Is Us. This is a really cool game that came out of nowhere for me. Look, it's not perfect, but let me describe it and explain it to you because I think some of you guys are really going to be into it. So, Hell Is Us is a third-person action-adventure game in a modern setting. Well, I mean, it's the 90s, so like you're not like a knight or anything, you're just this weird guy. You're dropped into a foreign country with not a lot of information and a vague mission. The country is like ripped apart by civil war, and of course there are weird monsters everywhere, because it's a video game, you know? It is typical video game stuff, it sounds like it, at least on paper, but the way this game kind of unfurls itself is just what makes it so interesting. It's been described as a type of game that does not hold your hands. The developers seem pretty proud of this. The game doesn't push you or guide you in any way that is noticeable. Now, you might be like me, you know, chances are you probably are. You play a lot of games, maybe you play a lot of third-person action games and action-adventure games that you feel like you can play in your sleep, right? Like, you know where to climb, you know where to go, what to do, what wall to shimmy past, because I feel like at this point you've seen it a million times before. And even still, the game pushes you in such an obvious way with arrows pointing everywhere, everything spelled out to you, everything just so obvious. Hell Is Us kind of serves as the antidote to that. Multiple large, explorable open zones, deep dungeons, NPCs with requests, and with all that, no quest markers, no map, and not even a ton of ways to keep track of your goals or anything you've found. Other than the equivalent of kind of like a Palm Pilot or an iPad for basic loadout and keeping track of leads, you're really on your own here. It might end up even being a pen and paper style game for you depending on your memory. And this is what hooked me on this game. So just so you know, before we get into it, I've been playing a review copy, and this footage is captured running on PS5 Pro, and there's no spoilers. But just as a loose setup, you play as Remy, a guy who gets into this country as a former kind of UN peacekeeper, but with his own motivations. He has ties to this land, and he has some things he needs to figure out. So he goes AWOL, he goes over enemy lines or whatever, and sets out into this isolated country. And again, I'm keeping it vague to not spoil anything. I really think that it's just part of the fun here. But, you know, after wandering around the woods for a little bit, shit goes south. These weird abstract horror monsters show up, and you get weapons and tools to fight back. So the three components of the game are combat, exploration, and puzzles. Combat is fairly simple, like once you get the hang of it. A light attack, a heavy attack, a block, and a parry, so enemies can be like staggered to be vulnerable to finishers, and you can dodge. There's also a cool mechanic where, like, if after attacks or strikes, you can time a button press right, and you can actually gain back some health. Get a bunch of hits on an enemy in a row and not take damage, and timing that button press will gain you even more health, so you can kind of gamble it a little bit. Where it gets a bit more complex is your loadout. So you have a tactical drone that follows you around. He can scan stuff for you, like for clues. You can use him as a flashlight, but it also helps you out in combat, giving you access to cooldown abilities like drawing enemy aggression away from you, like a distract, a forward-propelled lunge, a drone-lifted downward smash attack, and more that you can discover and equip throughout the game. Speaking of that, as you play, you pick up different magic weapons. A sword, maybe a heavy sword, a polearm, twin axes. You're gonna find your favorites and probably settle in, but either way, any weapon can be leveled up by using it and also improved at a blacksmith in a town. Weapons can be imbued with these certain glyphs that enable special magic attacks. So on that hand, and these are all tied to like holding the trigger and pressing a face button. So, maybe like an AoE blast, a heal, a ranged zap, you name it. Weapons and their connected attacks can be specialized into different magic types with cool names like grief, rage, terror, etc. And along with all that, you're also going to find stuff in the environment to equip on your character to net you active and passive stat bonuses. It sounds like a lot, but it's actually pretty simple. It's basically light RPG stuff. Interesting enough to just keep you looking around for better stuff. Now that's about 40-ish% of what you're doing, combat stuff. The rest of the time, you're wandering around dense, beautifully detailed, mysterious, creepy locations, trying to figure out how to progress. Resident Evil style stuff sometimes, like weird keys to open weird doors, but more complex stuff like using notes and environmental cues to slowly sort things out and maybe crack a code or an even stranger type puzzle. Sometimes you'll pick something up and you won't even understand what the hell you need it for a few hours. It's not an open world game, but a lot of the open areas are incredibly open, like full-on towns, villages, parks, deep woods, and more. Exploring these areas makes the game for me. Like, I love the design of these areas. Like, every corner you turn, you don't really know if you're going to stumble upon something useful or a monster trying to kill you, or maybe a hidden NPC that needs some help, or maybe an entire dungeon. Like, the amount of times I explored what I thought was a massive open area, only to discover it was actually hiding an even more massive area around the corner or underneath everything, just blew me away. It can be staggering at times, just like unpacking the layouts of these levels. I keep using the word unpack or unfurl, like it just is that type of game. It's fun to really slowly undo, slowly unravel, really sink your teeth into. The NPCs especially are interesting because they're kind of like mini puzzles. Many of them just need help in certain ways. Sometimes they need an item you can find and give to them. But again, a lot of it is not spelled out to you. They don't like usually expressly ask for something. It's not a quest marker. It's not obvious. It's not totally tracked. It's super vague. And it's up to you to just figure out who needs what or how someone can be helped.
I wish I had held on to my dad's hand. I hope he's safe. I want him to come get me. Yes, my dad's name is Caspian. Hello?
It does lead to a lot of you wandering around kind of endlessly, sometimes getting lost because, again, you have no map or anything. So for me, this definitely felt like it kind of padded out the length a lot just because of the amount of times I wandered to the wrong place or just straight up forgot what I was doing, or I forgot where a door I saw 2 hours ago was, or I forgot where an NPC I needed to get to was. This can definitely frustrate some players. Some of you might find it annoying or tedious, or it can feel too obtuse for no reason. But I couldn't help just finding myself enjoying the ride. I didn't mind it. Again, thanks, I think, to the complex design of the levels, but also the world building, the really good music, the ambient sound effects, and visuals. I just found myself kind of always pushing to figure out what was next, how to get to the next thing, how to unlock some weird chest I found hidden in a corner. The game is just built as a really fun Rubik's Cube. And it's not like the most insane challenging puzzle game, like, you know, like some indie puzzle game you'd find on Steam. But for me, I think it was like just right. I stumbled, I got stuck just the right amount, and when I finally figured something out, it felt really satisfying. The game has enough, most of the time, where like if you're stumped, you can wander around for a while, uncover something else, maybe discover something else, and then come back and then maybe solve your problem. Sometimes you might feel like you're going crazy or you're forgetting something. You might even start like writing stuff down on your phone to keep track like I did. I just found it worthwhile, and I recommend if you do play it, to go in blind and don't use a guide. And that world building really works here. The main characters seem somewhat simple, but like the mysterious presentation of it all, you know, the kind of cold, odd sci-fi atmosphere, just the right amount of like dark dread to it all. It's interesting. Plus, in my opinion, the game cuts checks it can actually cash in terms of having something to say and really showcase the horrors of war and civil war and nation infighting and the toll it takes on the individual citizens. Just when you think you have a side figured out, something new comes to light and makes you think of things another way. But at the end of it all is human suffering, and the game actually goes to some pretty dark lengths to show that. There's some dreary, like dreadful, depressing stuff in this game, but it wasn't just shock value. It actually like just emotionally hits, and for a game that isn't riddled with like, you know, in-your-face acting and constant story or a million cutscenes, just the right amount here and there, it still managed to make me like want to learn about this world more and actually feel a pit in my stomach when brutal things would come to light. You know, just how crappy humans can really be to one another. This is where the title of the game starts to make sense. They actually try to go for that. Now, I've been saying all this because the puzzles, the world, all of that is so strong, but I buried the lead here. Man, the combat is the weakest link. This is the flaw of the game, for my money. There are difficulty options and modifiers, but on normal difficulty during my playthrough, combat lost steam not even halfway through. What starts off as pretty tense, challenging stuff, you end up getting used to it. And then the game doesn't really up the ante or continue to challenge you over time. You see most of the enemy types pretty early on, and you're gonna be fighting the same enemies over and over again until you're sick of them, and it just feels repetitive. Enemies start out scary, and then after a while, they're not. They kind of lose their effectiveness. With only a few change-ups and minimal bosses, it just didn't do enough for me. It kept me like engaged just enough, but it was straight up my least favorite aspect of the game. Especially with a finicky lock-on system that did screw me over a few times in tighter areas. Still, it's just standard-ish, simple, action, light RPG stuff that does the job, but I wanted more from it. Visually, the game performed very well for me. I had no technical issues, aside from one random crash, but I was just really satisfied with the overall look of the game. Crisp, detailed, smooth, with some incredibly beautifully lit scenes. As much as it is a dreary, depressing, grim game, it uses color really effectively. And again, technically, I can't speak to the PC version. Again, I only played on console, but this game, to me, looked and sounded great. Long story short, dude, Hell Is Us is just such a weird game. It came out of nowhere for me. And this sci-fi 90s Civil War world just really got its hooks in me. Sometimes a weird, flawed game just comes along and you fall in love with it. And Hell Is Us did that just for me. Like, the sense of discovery in this game, I found fantastic. The sense of really figuring out something tricky is addictive. And the sense of dread and awe and wonder and confusion and mystery and like what's around the next corner the game constantly hits you with, that's just really good stuff. If you're easily frustrated or not into puzzles or you need more engaging combat, you know, maybe you don't like reading weird texts and learning about a made-up civilization and fake video game lore, hey, maybe it's not your thing. Sometimes it isn't even mine, depending on the game. But with Hell Is Us, it was the right mix. And it's not a full-priced game. It'll probably take you at least 25, 30 hours, depending on how good your brain is. And yeah, maybe you should consider it. But hey, that's a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion. And now I want to hear yours. Was this game on your radar? Did you play the demo? I think they released on Steam. Or is this coming out of nowhere for you? I'd love to know your perspective, anything at all about the developer, the publisher, this game. Hit us up. We'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, clicking the like button does help us out. We really appreciate that. And if you got any more questions for me, we'll be down in the comments as much as possible, but you can always find me and yell at me on Twitter and Instagram. Just look up @JakeBaldino or my other YouTube channel @JakeBaldino. But that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.